example problem. This is an example. It is not on your worksheet. And then after I do this example, I'm going to do number 3 on your homework sheet. All right, don't forget your first rule of factoring is to take out what's in common. So here we have y equals. So this is how it'll look on your worksheet, y equals. First rule of factoring, see if there's anything in common. This has a 2 in common. So I'm factoring out a 2. X squared minus 3x minus 4. Alright, so you keep that 2, and then you factor this part. This part I'll factor the front, x and x. Factor the back, we'll need 4 and 1, minus and plus. So now it's factored. So it technically has 3 factors, but this one will never equal 0. 2 cannot equal 0. So I set this one equal to 0, and I'll get x equals 4 as one of my x-intercepts, and set this equal to 0, and I'll subtract 1 and get this as one of my x-intercepts. So my x-intercepts are 4, 0, and negative 1, 0. And then, oh, by the way, this one's going to open up because when I have it in order, it opens up. And so I know that the vertex, if it's opening up, the vertex is going to be a minimum. I'm going to find my vertex in just a minute, but this is how you'll answer the questions. All right, the next question on the page is y-intercept. On your homework, the y-intercept, you put in 0 for x, which knocks these out, and you get negative 8. So you've got your y-intercept of negative 8. Axis of symmetry we'll get in just a minute, and the vertex. All right, so to get the vertex, you add your numbers and divide by 2 your x-intercepts. That's right in the middle of those, which is 3/2. So I know that my vertex is 3/2, comma, and then you fill it back up in here. So I'm going to go 2 times 3/2 squared minus 6 times 3/2 minus 8, which you could do on your calculator or by hand. 2 times 9/4. This is 6 over 1, so that gives me 18/2. Or you could reduce as you go. That might be a little easier. I see when I'm multiplying here, 2 goes into 6 3 times. So it gives me minus 9 minus this 8. This is 9. All right, and then 2 goes into 4 2 times. So I get 9/2. I'm going to get a common denominator. This is 18/2, and this is 16/2. Let's see, so my vertex is negative 34/2, and 9/2 looks like negative 25/2. All right, let's do it on the calculator. 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. My calculator will look sort of like yours, but not exactly. It'll work the same way. All right, so I'm going to go 2x squared. Buttons are in the same place. Let's see, what did I have? Minus 6x. I'm filling this in right here. Minus 6x minus 8. So now I'm at minus 6x, which is 3/2, minus 8. And that gives me negative 12.5, which I want to go math, fraction. I get negative 25/2. So I did it by hand and I did it on my calculator. All right, so this is my vertex. Now your axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 3/2. And I'll show you what that means. All right, so let me take you through this process again. So don't panic, but I'm going to erase it to take you through the process again. All right, so to watch it again, 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. All right, so to match what's happening on your worksheet, you're asked for these questions on 1 through 6 of your worksheet. And again, this is just an example. This particular one is not on your worksheet. So on your worksheet, you're asked for you to factor it. And so let's do that first. So every one, 1 through 6, you're going to be asked to factor. First thing I'm going to do is take out what's in common, which is a 2. Then I'm going to keep factoring because I can factor some more. And I factored this one to x minus 4, x plus 1. Then you set all of your factors. You can have however many. This one has 1, 2, 3 factors. You set your factors equal to 0. This doesn't make any sense. 2 cannot equal 0, so that just goes away. One of my x-intercepts is 4, and the other x-intercept is -1. So the first thing you're going to do is factor. All right, then on your worksheet, it says opens up or down. And you can just circle either one of those. This one is positive, so it's going to open up. The next question is the vertex, a max or a min? Okay, if it's opening up, the vertex is a min. The next question is the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, put in 0 for x. If you put in 0 for x, your x's go away, and all you have left is -8. So your y-intercept is -8. Always put in 0 to find your y-intercept. I'm going to come back to axis of symmetry. It's a new word for you, axis of symmetry. What that's asking for is what cuts it right in half. Your parabola is its axis of symmetry. I'm going to come back and answer that because I always get it from my vertex. All right, my vertex is right in the middle of these two numbers, my x-intercepts, which they never really blatantly ask you for, but they do when you're factoring. So go back to those and add them together and divide by 2. And the front of it was 3/2, and then I filled it in for x up here, calculator or by hand, and I got -25/2. I think is what I got. Let's check our calculator where I had left it. -25/2. Okay, and then, so that's your axis of symmetry. Go back up to this part. Axis of symmetry is x is equal to 3/2. And then we're going to graph it. So to graph it, graph everything that you found. All right, so let's see what we found. We found our x-intercepts are 4 and -1. Those are my zeros or my x-intercepts. We know it's opening up. We know our vertex is going to be a minimum. We know we have a y-intercept at 0, -8. And some of yours are counting by 2s. So let me redraw this graph. I think a lot of our graphs are going by 2, but you can still see the 1, 2. Okay, so you can still see 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think I'm still good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, my y-intercept is -8, 0, -8. My x-intercepts are 4 and -1. My vertex is 3/2. That's 1.5, and I've got to go down 12.5 from right here. All right, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 1.5, and I'm going to go down. This was 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't know if I can extend my page. I would go way down. You've got to draw it to scale, so I can't extend this page on this app, but I would go down to -12.5 and put my vertex. Then I would come through here, minimum vertex, and go back up through that dot. And what is this axis of symmetry asking right here? I'll always cut it, go right through your vertex. So that you don't have to draw that part, but that's your axis of symmetry. So you just have to name it, you don't have to draw it. But an axis of symmetry always cuts right through your vertex. All right, so now let's do actually one on your page. If you get out your homework and look at number 3. Number 3 is y equals 3x squared plus 12x. So let's put our questions down. First of all, they're going to ask me to factor. Then they're going to ask me if it opens up or down. Then they're going to ask me if it's a max or min. Then they're going to ask me for my y-intercept, my axis of symmetry, my vertex, Oh, and I forgot on the last one, domain and range, which we've already done this year, but I will answer both of those. The domain of these, you can fill anything in for x. Remember, our parabolas are going out like this, so your domain on all of them is going to be all reals. Let's go in and go back here and answer that. Domain, you can put anything in for x, so it's all reals. And the range, remember how we would get a line? Okay, we would get a line and we would start it from low to high or high to low. So this line picks up right here at -12.5 and it goes to infinity. So my range is my y's are greater than or equal to -25/2. All of my y's are here and above. Okay, so on this one, here we go. All right, first thing I'm going to do is factor out what's in common. All right, so I'm going to factor. This has a 3 in common, and that leaves me x squared plus 4x. I'm sorry, it has a 3x in common. They have a 3 and an x in common. So I take out a 3x, and that leaves me x plus 4. Now set your factors equal to 0. 3x equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. Here, divide by 3, and you get x is 0. Here, subtract 4, and you get x is -4. Those are your x-intercepts. So on your little graph, you already know your x-intercepts, you can graph them, are -4 and 0. Up or down, this is positive, so it's going up. If a parabola is going up, then the vertex is a minimum. Y-intercept, you put in 0 for x. So if I put in 0 for x, these both go away. I get 0 plus 0. So my y-intercept is 0, 0, so it's right here. Vertex, and then I'm going to find axis of symmetry. The vertex is right in the middle of these two numbers. So what's right in the middle of -4 and 0 is obviously -2, or you could add them together and divide by 2. That gives you a -4 over 2, which is -2. So here is the front part of your vertex, is at -2. All right, then you fill it in up here to find the rest of your vertex. So to find the rest of my vertex, I'm going to say 3x squared plus 12x. And I'm going to put in -2. This gives me 3 times 4. So this is 12. And this is plus -24. So I get -12. And then your axis of symmetry is easy. Your axis of symmetry is x equals -2. Domain is all reals, and we'll find our range after we graph. All right, let's see what we have. So we have our zeros, our x-intercepts, or our roots are 0 and -4. Our y-intercept was 0, 0. I already had that one. My vertex is -2, -12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going up like this. It's very stretched because of that 3 in the front. Our axis of symmetry would be this. X equals -2. You don't have to put that dotted line. Now let's find our range. Okay, so let's take something and start going up to get our range. Our y's exist from -12 to infinity. So our range is y is greater than or equal to -12. And so that's number 3 filled in.